No place like tiny homes for dozens of homeless veterans who now have a roof over their head in a community dedicated to giving back to U.S. veterans in need.
You know, everybody's pretty familiar with the statistic of 22 veterans a day commit suicide, right? What people don't know is 16 out of the 22 veterans that commit suicide are not accessing any type of services, not going to the VA, not getting any help, and that's why we're here.
Brandon, what was the inspiration for the Veterans Community Project?
One day, my buddy called me up on Veterans Day and said, "Hey man, can you donate $100? We need to get a guy in a hotel." And I said, "Why do you need $100? Like, doesn't he qualify for VA services?" And that's when he told me, and I had never heard this in my life, that a lot of veterans don't qualify for veteran services. A lot of reservists, a lot of National Guard, a lot of dishonorably discharged veterans don't qualify for veteran services, right? That broke my heart. And there was a group of about 5 of us. And from there we started talking, and we knew we wanted to do some type of transitional housing because a lot of veterans struggled with reintegrating into society. Instead of going to a shelter, they would go live in a tent on the street, right? Just because it's safer to them. How we view it here at Veterans Community Project is, dude, our battle buddies, right? And in Afghanistan, Iraq, or whatever, would have had our backs no matter what bullets are flying, whatever was going on, they would have drugged any single one of us to safety, right? But why is it that all my battle buddies are now on the streets, literally dying and committing suicide every single day because nobody has their backs? Like, that's screwed up from us. They would have done it for us. Why aren't we doing it for them? And that's the approach we take here at Veterans Community Project. I don't care what they're going through, what they're struggling with. They're my battle buddy. I'm going to go out onto the battlefield on the streets, drag them to safety, and have their back and say, you know what? I'm not leaving you behind.
Tell me a little bit about what it is that you do here.
I'm the Director of Veteran Services, so I get to work with all the vets that are living in these tiny houses, and then also I kind of oversee the services we provide up at our outreach center.
My name is Ben Hendershot. I'm the VP of National Expansion for the Veterans Community Project, and really work on the different projects that we have going and building the different communities that we're working on. The first 13 we're right up against 89th Street. And we actually started them Christmas Eve. And 28 days later, we completed them. Like a lot of hard-charging combat vets out there, right? We were on a mission, but it is not a sustainable platform or a sustainable process to do that over and over and over again. So between each of those different phases we did here in Kansas City, we kind of went back to the drawing board and said, how can we make this better? How can we make this process more sustainable and easier? And how can we make the designs of the buildings more sustainable as well?
Well, I'd love to take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go inside, yeah.
Oh, wow. This is really nice. So you got everything you need.
What this house looks like is exactly what they're moving into. Everything is brand new. It's a fresh start for them, right? It's an opportunity to start their life over. We really try to get them back in that military mindset. A lot of these people, the most successful they've ever been in their life has been in the military. So we want to get them back in that mindset, get them out of that fight or flight mindset to really start working on the things they need to work on to transition into a permanent housing solution.
Having the 4 walls and a door that is just for them, being able to see that pride that they get to have when they walk in the door, and then they also get to feel that like sense of security. These houses are all built trauma-informed care. There's one way in, there's windows on one side, they don't face windows on the other side of a house. That was all done intentionally for the safety, privacy, security of the vets that we have living here.
The thought process was not only to give them that safe and secure kind of feeling and that sense of having their own place and ownership, which absolutely we intended and wanted to do, but we also designed it for people, let's say you're struggling with some type of trauma, post-traumatic stress or something along those lines. So that's the reason the bed is in the back. That's why you can have line of sight on all of the egress points in the houses. So there's a lot of time and a lot of thought that kind of goes into how these houses are laid out.
Ben, now this looks like it's a home for a single person. Do you also have homes for families or couples?
We absolutely have residents here that are married or have children or have some type of dependents. There's also a lot of people out there who won't go and receive help because they may only help the veteran and not the entire family. So we never want that to be a barrier for somebody getting off of the streets and really transitioning into a permanent housing.
Ben, what is the transition rate? How many people who have come into this program have successfully transitioned to permanent housing?
So last year, in the year of 2020, our successful transition rate was 93%. Wow. And in this line of work, that's unprecedented and it's unheard of. It really shows that this model works, that it's sustainable, and that it's scalable for the future.
So Ben, when you say a 93% success rate in transitioning to a permanent home, what does that mean?
That means that when somebody transitions out of our program, it's into a permanent housing solution that is sustainable for that individual.
I imagine it can be very overwhelming for a new vet coming into this program. Are there a lot of ways that you help the vets sort of navigate that?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we do. Community is our middle name. And so one of the things that we know that we can do is we can end veteran homelessness, but we can only do that with the community around us. And so the staff that I have on and things that I've had to kind of learn since being here is being a subject matter expert on what's out there. What certain vets will qualify for, whether it's time and service, things like that. We just try and simplify that. We try and make it as easy to be able to have access to care, access to services, to give them the support that they need to be successful in the long term.
And how are you funded? Is there government funding that's coming to you, or is it all privately funded?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask us, like, how did you guys create this? Like, did you guys just get huge federal grant? That's actually not how we did it at all. If we took federal funding, they limit on who we can and can't help, and we said, you know what? I don't care. I don't need your federal funding. We're going to have our brothers and sisters back. This was built by the community for our veterans, right? What's been amazing is we've been able to bring the community here to help us build the tiny houses.
This wonderful city has really wrapped us in our arms and given us a ton of support. Being able to build these houses, being able to continue to bring in new vets and continuing to fill those houses with new furniture, and it's brand new almost every single time somebody moves in.
When you look around this house, though, you gotta remember, this is the community in here, right? It is the community that donates these pots and pans. It was our partners that donated the granite for the countertops. It is our plumbing partners that really donated the plumbing fixtures in the restroom. So I mean, it's really, when you look at this house, this isn't just something that VCP has really built. This is the community coming together to really wrap around an issue of veterans homelessness and saying, hey, we're better than this and we're gonna do something about it.
Brandon, how many tiny homes are on this property right now?
So on this property right now, we have 49 tiny houses in a 5,000-foot community center with wraparound services. So healthcare, dental care, veterinary services, essentially the one-stop shop for anything our veterans need inside the village, you know, resume writing classes, laptops, you name it.
What are the advantages of building a community like this of tiny homes versus, say, a much larger shelter where maybe you have individual rooms or maybe large barracks?
Several advantages to having a village of tiny homes like this. For instance, when we look at shelters, security really becomes a big factor. Also personal space, right? When we talk about transitional housing, when we talk about getting an individual permanent housing ready, in that process, it's really important for them to have their own space where they feel safe, secure, where they can really work on their issues, whatever those issues may be, and really just have a place that they can call home to get them to a point where they're ready for some type of a permanent housing solution. Also, cost efficiency. For what we could buy and rehab a local school for, we could build 5 of these villages.
Wes, one of the things that strikes me about this community is that they're all individual private homes, and I can only imagine that adds a lot to your mission, to give these vets their private space.
It's a really neat thing that helps us build trust almost immediately with the vets. One of the things that we put our stamp on is dignity first, and showing the respect and honor that these vets deserve as they're walking in the door. And so there's a number of things that we do to protect them, to protect their privacy, to there's a reason we're not inside a home talking to a vet right now, because we like to limit that as much as possible so that the vets can be in here and really focusing on why they're here in the first place, being able to focus on what led to them becoming homeless in the first place, what led to that gradual decline, or if it was a steep cliff. Either way, we want them to be able to get that chance to catch their breath.
You're not just putting a roof over these vets' heads, you're really helping them to transition back into society.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually, a lot of people just think we've just thrown vets into these houses and saying, here you go, forgetting about you. No, that's one of the least things in what we do, right? The veterans here, again, we'll work with them on money management, whatever the case may be, help them with, transitioning out of here into permanent housing. These aren't just shacks, right? The whole thought process process behind the concept of these tiny houses is it puts us back in that military mentality, right? Like a lot of B huts we lived in, connexes, barracks lifestyle that we lived in. When I built the very first tiny house, that was a thought process and design. My best night's sleep, as silly as it sounds, was in Afghanistan, right? I knew my battle buddy was behind me. I knew that I was in a tight-knit corners, and I wanted to take that concept and bring it, to my other battle buddies that a lot of us had positive experiences in the military, but it's the transition out that gets us, right?
When Veterans Community Project first started here in Kansas City, there was actually no intention of even having any national expansion. It was really intended to do the best we can for the community we live in and the veterans in the area and move on.
So the plan is to build communities just like this, the same tiny homes, community center with all the wraparound services and everything.
So, not necessarily, right? It really just depends on the individual city. That's what makes us, this nonprofit, so unique, is we're able to build the tiny houses according to code. Nobody else has been able to do that in the United States, right? So working with the city officials and the counties to figure out what their code is and what they need to be able for us to be inside city limits is going to depend on that individual city.
And we really felt an obligation to take the knowledge that we've learned and take this and try to scale it across the country to help as many of these veterans as we can across America.